Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Historic Anthologies has been released. It is out now. It's the brand newbiest thing. Well, no, not newbiest. It's not for noobs. Whatever, noobs can enjoy it too. It's the brand newest thing when it comes to Magic Arena. It is a whole set, and I don't mean a full set of 300 some odd cards, but it's a whole set of new cards that are being introduced to the historic format on Arena. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through all the cards. We're going to talk all about them, the flavor, everything involved with the cards. So this is going to be a long one, my friends. Now, bear in mind, the method that I'm using to record this may cause a bit of a sound differential. Once we switch over to actually looking at the cards, there may be a sound differential. So if the sound drops a little bit, I'm not quite as loud. Sorry for that. But Carly used to do the editing. She knows a lot more than me. I'm doing it now. I don't actually really 100% know how to balance things out perfectly. So just bear in mind that once we're done going through the cards and we come back here, I'll be at this volume level again. So if you use headphones, just, make sure that you're not surprised later when I say, we're coming back. Remember that we'll come back to whatever volume level this is. I'll do my best to balance it out. But either way, we're in for a long haul. So let's dive on into this. All right, so here we are with the cards on the screen. Let's take a look starting from the upper left-hand corner. We're going to take a look first at Serra Ascendant. This is 1 white mana for a 1/1 lifelink creature. As long as you have 30 or more life, Serra Ascendant gets +5/+5 and has flying. Now, I've already seen people playing with the life. I mean, we've all seen the white-black life gain decks that were a thing before, using your Johnny's Pride Mates, you're a Johnny's Welcome. There's a lot of stuff for life gain decks. So this seems like a natural fit for that sort of archetype in Historic. The artwork for this Serra Ascendant, I'm pretty sure they have different artworks for this card. And this is one of the goofier feeling artworks at first. When I look at it at first, the first time I saw this, I was like, it looks like this guy has a gigantic head that flares out to the side. The cloak that he's wearing, that's billowing outwards. I mean, this is to represent the flying, right? He's being lifted in the air through enlightenment. I do really like this card. 1 mana for a 1/1, but if you have a dumb amount of life, then all of a sudden it's a 6/6 flyer. That fits with the whole Serra concept. You got your Serra Angels and all that. It overall fits into the idea of a life gain deck, and the artwork is okay. Honestly, it's well done, but it doesn't scream to me that this is amazing. It's okay. The flavor concept behind Serra Ascendant is cool though. A monk that gains ascendancy and a crazy amount of power and the ability to transcend the laws of gravity. So this seems actually like a pretty good include for Historic overall. We've got a card of a nice power level that fits into pre-existing strategies quite nicely. Moving on. The next card we've got is another life gain focused card. This is Soul Warden. This card has been a part of Magic for a very, very long time. You may have heard of a deck called Soul Sisters. I guess they're trying to make it partially exist in this format, right? I think that's what they're going for. One white mana gets you a 1/1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Wait, they put the flavor text up in the corner there. Did they do that for this card? No, okay, it doesn't have flavor text. All right, so Soul Warden's flavor text says, 1 does not question the size or shape of the grains of sand in an hourglass, nor do I question the temperament of the souls under my guidance. And the artwork shows her here with her eyes closed in communion with what I assume are supposed to be soul fragments. The idea of this watcher over the souls is really cool. There's a beautiful lady here, and actually, I never really noticed in the artwork before that there is an orc head down in the bottom right-hand corner, or some other sort of creature to represent the concept that Soul Warden doesn't just care about your white creatures, cares about overall all of your creatures. I like that the flavor text ties into that. It explains why it doesn't matter what creatures you have that come out, you are going to gain a life. She clearly has that I'm a healer mystic kind of vibe to her. It looks like she's in some kind of nomad tent or something from the fabric that's hanging behind her. This has a lot of good flavor to it. I am cool with this card being included. I am definitely down for this. So this again is something that's going to fit quite nicely into the life gain decks. Right now in standard, we have the 2/2 who has the exact same kind of ability. But, well, I guess I shouldn't say exact, because Soul Warden actually cares about creatures showing up on either side. So the whole temperament of the souls under her guidance, she considers all living beings to be under her guidance. That's some good flavor overall. And again, this seems like an excellent include to throw into Historic. The third card we have to deal with, which I think, yeah, this is the last white card we're going to look at, again feels to me like an excellent choice. 1 white, 3 colorless gets you a Kinsbale Cavalier. This is a 2/2 Kithkin Knight. This is originally from the Lorwyn block. Knight creatures you control have double strike. The flavor text says, ambidexterity is common among Kithkin. The thought weft links the minds of the left and right-handed, giving each the knack of the other. This is some really cool flavor overall on the card. The flavor text is fantastic. For those of you who don't know, the Kithkin are essentially halflings. Think like Lord of the Rings hobbits, right? So they're halflings, but they're all mentally linked through something called the thought weft. It's kind of like the hive mind that ants would have, something like that, but they're actually directly in mental contact with each other. And the fact that the thought weft links the minds of all these individuals and allows them to operate as if they have the proficiencies of each other. It's like, look, I'm normally right-handed, but my boy Jimmy here, he's left-handed, and we share a mental link. So we're both actually left-handed and right-handed as long as we're connected. To me, that's really amazing. I love the artwork. Just the plucky little Kithkin Knight riding on this springjack goat. Basically, that's what these are. Weaponized goats. And he's got that little spear flag flying out. He's just got his blades out in this like 300 level vibe where it's like, I'm coming for you. Just this diminutive knight with this pluck. I just love it. And the green grassy sort of foresty pastoral setting behind him. Absolutely beautiful. 100% love it. Plus, this is well timed in that knight decks are now a thing, right? We've seen a bunch of stuff in Eldraine that focuses on knight deck concepts. So this is a great time to bring this back for Knight Tribal. A very nice include, and the fact that it only costs 1 white means you can play a multicolored knight deck and easily slide this in. So this is both a flavor win and an overall win, I feel like, for Historic. So far, I'm feeling very good about the cards that we are looking at. Moving on to blue, we have Treasure Hunt. 1 blue, 1 colorless for a sorcery. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. Then put all cards revealed this way into your hand. This originally hails from the very first Zendikar block. This is from Worldwake. The artwork on this is fantastic. Up at the top, wreathed in light, you can see a merfolk explorer. They are diving down deep. They are on a treasure hunt in the depths. You've got a school of fish swimming by to add a nice element of the whole aquatic life. And you can see what this merfolk is fixated on. You can see that there is a glowing treasure box. You can see the glowing runes that are just kind of emanating off of this. You can see the reflection of the glow off the top of this kind of underwater cave. And you can see that this treasure has been sitting there for a while as algae has started to grow up off of it. Overall, flavor level on this card, fantastic. And I mean, honestly, in terms of power level of the card, Treasure Hunt is a solid way to randomly dig into your deck. Sure, you don't get to pick what you're going to get, but you're guaranteed that you are going to get at least 1 non-land card, and you may actually get multiple. And of course, this is a build around a card too, where if you have a way to stack the top number of cards of your deck with like a Die Young or something like that, that sort of, or is it Forever Young? It's Forever Young, isn't it? The new card from Throne of Eldraine that lets you grab X creature cards from the top of your deck. So, or not off X creature from the top of your deck. Sorry, what I'm trying to say is there's a black spell that lets you grab any number of creatures from your graveyard and put them on top of your deck in any order. If you were to combine that with something like Treasure Hunt, right? You're going to get to go ahead and grab all those creatures and put them into your hand. So if set up properly, this can equal a lot of card advantage, and sometimes just randomly, it's going to equal a lot of card advantage. So flavor and power win, I give this a thumbs up for historic. Next up, we've got Distant Melody. 1 blue, 3 colorless for a sorcery that says choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. So this is clearly a very tribal-oriented card. I mean, this is going to support any blue tribal style decks that you have. The art depicts some very interesting looking fae creatures, some fairies from Lorwyn. Again, it feels like it fits perfectly. Throne of Eldraine dovetails quite nicely with a bunch of these cards, it feels like. And the artwork, the way that the artwork is, the artist, I should say, has chosen to represent the melody as something visual. There is a condition, I think it might be called synesthesia or something similar to that, where people actually see sound as colors. And that must be overwhelming, but it must also be beautiful too. You know what I mean? Like it must at first overwhelm the senses, but at the same time, being able to see sound as color would add an interesting dimension to your existence. And I really like the way that it feels like that's being portrayed. These fairies can actually see this distant melody that is this swirling sort of energy in the air wafting towards them. And you can see they've both picked up on it. You can see that the lower fairy is actually leaning his head into it, and the other fairy has his head cocked the way that a dog would while trying to listen to a sound. So to me, this is an interesting flavor concept. I think providing tribal support to historic is a good choice. Overall, the power level of this card, I don't know. This one seems to me like one of the lower powered cards, more of just a fun, goofy kind of card. I could be wrong about that, though. This could be a card that's used in some format that I'm not aware of and is actually really strong. Depending on the number of creatures you have out, you could end up with a lot of card advantage with this. I think it's an excellent include, and I find the artwork to be incredibly striking. I like it very, very much. It's interesting how the front fairy's hair is flowing up in the air like that too. It's pretty cool. The card we have after that is Crypt Breaker. Oh, interesting. They show you the token at the same time. I like that. So Crypt Breaker is 1 black for a 1/1 zombie. Pay a black and a colorless, discard a card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Tap 3 untapped zombies you control, you draw a card, and you lose 1 life. Now, this is a lot. You get a lot here for 1 mana. I mean, it makes more zombies, and it also lets you utilize the zombies you have for card draw effects. And it does it in that black way, which feels fair. You know, we've seen that blue can draw cards without any kind of penalty, but has different kind of conditions, where black has this direct card drawing, but it costs you life. And I think that's fair. And the flavor on this is fantastic. The Crypt Breaker, it's like, the concept is like a jailbreaker. You break your friends out of jail. Well, a Crypt Breaker is somebody who's breaking their undead friends out of undead jail. I like that. This artwork is great. You can see the crypt doors being smashed open. You can see these birds are flying away. They've got this kind of frenetic, instantaneous energy where this is a moment caught in time where the zombie, this Crypt Breaker, has broken into the crypt and he is now escaping with his friends. And these birds have been startled. They're flying away from this ominous, dark, like moonlit night in a graveyard. You can see the symbol of Avacyn in the front. You can see multiple tombstones. The flavor of it's fantastic. The flavor of the zombie token is very nice too, where you can see 1 zombie token in the forefront, kind of nicely dressed in the Innistrad style, with the weird kind of bend to the one front leg to give you that whole, like, look, this is an undead creature half shambling towards you. They don't have perfect control over their body. Some of their limbs may be broken, but overall, they're still going to trudge towards you because they feel no pain. So there's nothing to stop them. And they're surrounded by this Innistrad town with the mist flowing in around it. You can actually, if you look really, really carefully, you can see the tentacles of Emrakul descending from the sky in the upper left-hand corner of the artwork. And I'll admit, I never actually noticed that before. What I like about the way this is presented is I am actually picking up on extra details that I have never seen. So you've got Emrakul in the background of the mist, and a pretty much endless wave of zombies. This would be terrifying. You look up to see this glowing eye zombie coming up close to you, and then you look behind it and you can see and probably hear off in the distance a bunch of groans of the shambling undead army as these creatures in nice but also tattered townsfolk's clothes come shambling towards you. High level flavor. Now, in terms of adding to historic, seems like a good include. Zombie is a very popular tribal. Crypt baker. Let me make you a fine zombie cookie. Crypt breaker, honestly, is a lot of value packed into a 1-mana card. So this seems like a really reasonable include to help bolster people who want to play zombie deck. Moving on, we have, Hippie! Nice! Hypnotic Spectre. I played with this card back when I started playing Magic, man. This guy was a beast back in the day. Partially because there was a Dark Ritual and you could get him out on the first turn. I actually like the original Hypnotic Spectre's artwork a little bit better. But this is still very solid. 2 black and a colorless for a 2/2 flying Spectre. Whenever it deals damage, never mind, it's not combat damage. Well now, that actually allows for some other strategies. Whenever Hypnotic Spectre deals damage to an opponent, that player discards a card at random. Random card discard is magnitudes of order more powerful than discard where your opponent gets to choose. This is also black discard that can hit lands in your opponent's hand. There is a bunch of discard. Most of the time it's discard where you get to choose. But there is a bunch of discard in nowadays where it will not hit lands or it won't hit basic lands. Hippie can hit anything. That's pretty solid. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer that every turn is going to strip a random card from your opponent's hand is fairly beefy. The artwork is intense as well. You have a Spectre riding a Drake. This Drake may or may not be like undead. This may be a reanimated worm. It does kind of have that feel. It does have freakishly big hands. Like look at its claw. Oh, look at its claws. I guess I can't do that arrow over it. But look at its gigantic, massive claws. They feel like they're too big for this beast. And its long snaking tail is just whipping up into the moonlight. This is a very evocative and flavorful piece of artwork. And in terms of power level, seems right at home in historic. We've gotten to the point now where this card doesn't feel overpowered. And there's not a lot you can do to accelerate it out into play. So you're generally going to get it out in the 3rd turn. Maybe if you're playing a 2-color deck and you had like a first turn Llanowar. No, even that wouldn't allow for a 2nd turn. A first turn Gilded Goose would allow for a 2nd turn Hypnotic Spectre. So there still are ways to get it out on the 2nd turn, but there's no ways to have a first turn. And so for me, I feel like this is a perfectly reasonable include. Let's take a look. Oh, black gets 4 cards? What? Black is getting the most cards out of any color, it appears. Interesting. Phyrexian Arena. This is a potent card. 2 black and a colorless. They've chosen the 8th edition one. That's interesting. I suppose they didn't want to bring in the old Weatherlight Saga artwork because this is the Phyrexian Arena is actually supposed to represent a moment in Magic history where Gerard faces off against Urza. And that's a huge, huge pivotal moment. It's a very interesting part of the story. But this is a more generalized looking arena that will be more understandable to the masses. I suppose in the bleachers there are supposed to be waves of Phyrexians. It's interesting because nobody in this artwork actually looks Phyrexian. Phyrexian, for those of you who don't know, are part man, part machine. So this, or all machine in most, and very little flesh. But this doesn't feel artwork like a Phyrexian arena, but I will give it that it definitely does feel like an arena where a lot of people are being taken out. I mean, if you look, you can see 3 different pairs of people at different points in their battle. You can see one battle where someone is clearly lost. You can see the battle at the forefront is one where someone is at the disadvantage and may be about to lose. And you can see one battle where it seems 2 people are fairly matched. So it's interesting levels of defeat across the artwork of the card. In terms of what the card does, at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and lose a life. So essentially, you're going to be drawing twice as many cards as your opponent with this, if we were each just going by what you get during your draw phase plus the Phyrexian Arena. And as I mentioned before, black has this penalty where they pay life. I mean, that's essentially what it is. You're losing life, you're paying life for knowledge. And that makes sense because black is a color that's willing to sacrifice for power. Phyrexian Arena is a very, very strong card. If you have not played with this card, it is very, very potent. It is a worthwhile historic include for sure. The final black card we have to look at is Tendrils of Corruption. And that's 1 black and 3 colors for an instant that deals X damage to target creature and you gain X life, where X is the number of swamps you control. Now, this will count non-basic swamps like the shocklands that exist in Ravnica. So this is a solid piece of creature removal that also gives you life. And I really like the way that cards like this work with cards like Phyrexian Arena or Cryptbreaker, for example, where you're willing to sacrifice your own life for power. And part of that is knowing that the power that you gain is going to be able to be used to extract life from other creatures. So you feed on the life essence of other beings and then pay part of that life essence for more power. That's an excellent, excellent feel to the black side of Magic the Gathering. The artwork is very, very evocative. You can see these gargoyles just kind of made of demonic night. And are these tendrils actually reaching out of the gargoyles? Or is this guy just in some kind of like haunted ruins or some sort of evil miasma like mansion, something like that? It does feel like he's outdoors. I mean, from the fact that on the right-hand side, you've got a door with stairs coming downwards. It looks like he's traveling through some sort of forbidden city and the shadows have come to life and swelled up out of a pool in the ground. They start as these little tendrils and they start to turn into claws that drag you down and claw at you, drawing big rents in your armor and flesh and draining the life essence directly from you. Actually, yeah, it doesn't really look like the claws rip through you. It looks like it's more a chill of the grave, like drawing your life essence directly through your skin, because this guy's body has a very, very deathly pallor to it. He is very, very pale if you look at him, especially in the face. You can see that there's actually one of the tendrils has a claw directly on his chin, twisting his head to the side, while another one, he has his arm up like he's going to try and like pull one of these claws away from him. But the claws are reaching up and grabbing onto his arms as well. They've grabbed onto his legs, and they may very well be dragging him down into the darkness. What a nightmarish way for your life to end. The flavor on this is fantastic. It feels reasonably powerful as well. Depending on how many swamps you get out, this could be more and more powerful. So it feels like it's reasonable to include in Historic. So far, so good. It feels like they're adding a lot of good stuff to Historic. Now we're leaving black and we're moving to red. We have Kiln Fiend. This was a big card back in the days of Rise of Eldrazi, where it originally came from. 1 red, 1 colorless for a 1/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Kiln Fiend gets +3/+0 until end of turn. Now, there are a lot of similar cards to this in Standard right now, or at least a handful. There's a 1/3 that gets +1/+0 whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. There is a 2/2 that gets a +1/+1 counter whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. So there is definitely either a straight red or most likely a red-blue deck that you can build around these type of cards. This card in particular has a high level of aggression to it, considering that each spell gives it +3/+0. So the first spell is already going to make it a 4/2. And this is an elemental beast, and you can see in the artwork, we're looking at the world of Zendikar. You can see the flames flowing out of its mouth and up above, radiating off the back of his body. You can see the flames coming off his tail, and you can see that there are all these rents, all these openings in his body, like where it's not perfectly connected because he's made out of fire and stone. And you can see the heat, the internal heat, like he's like a kiln, right? That's where you would fire clay vessels. You put clay vessels to cook them. So the inside of him is essentially like a giant furnace or a giant oven. And you can see the heat of that actually radiating out of him through like rib slats and stuff. Very, very evocative artwork. Simple, but also very good at directing you to what the flavor behind him is. It feels like a good include for Historic. After that, we've got Goblin Matron. 1 red, 2 colorless for a 1/1. They've chosen to go with the Modern Horizons artwork on this one. Although this artwork may have been used. I'm not sure if they've used it on other Goblin Matrons. I know it's not the original Goblin Matron artwork. Now, this is a 1/1 Goblin. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a Goblin card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it's a tutor. It lets you tutor up Goblins specifically. We already know there's a bunch of potent Goblins in even Standard or have just left Standard. We have Goblin Chain Whirler. We have that Legion Commander Goblin. I don't remember his exact name right now, but he's a 2/2 that makes a 1/1 Goblin every turn and has might be like Legion Lieutenant or whatever. But that's a potent Goblin as well. This is a great way to search them. The artwork shows what clearly looks like an old Goblin lady, a Goblin aunt, a Goblin mother. She does not look very friendly. She's got a vicious kind of look to her. She's got these big ravens on her shoulder. Honestly, it feels like she should be more than a 1/1. I like all the little tribal trappings she has on her necklace, the little braids in her hair, the metal pieces that are attached to the top of her robes here that probably lead to hanging satchels full of all kinds of stuff. And you can see multiple goblins in the background, and few of them are looking over at her. She has a leadership position, like a motherly status within the Goblin Warrens, and she can direct them as to what to do. So overall, this is a flavorful include. It is a solid include. When it comes to tribal stuff like this, people love goblins. Excellent include for historic to help build upon it. So overall, I'll give that a thumbs up. Oh, Hidasugu's second right. So, I guess this is the first one we're going to run into that makes me go, really? Why bother? I mean, when they talked about us getting cards added historic, they talked about adding like Grizzlebrand and Brainstorm, and this is decidedly not that. To be fair, we've seen a bunch of awesome cards so far. This is underwhelming. 1 red, 3 colorless for Hidasugu's second right. It's an instant that says if target player has exactly 10 life, Hidasugu's second right deals 10 damage to that player. So, I mean, this is a build around it card. Theoretically, yes, the power level on it looks enticing where you were like, wow, I can do 10 damage for 4 mana? That's insane. Normally for 4 mana, you're going to get to do about 4 damage, maybe 5 if you're lucky. And that'll be conditional probably. So, I mean, it does promise a lot of damage, but you have to get your opponent to exactly 10. This card wasn't as powerful when Mana Burn was a thing. This is back from the Kamigawa days. Kamigawa block was underpowered. The artwork is pretty epic, in all honesty. I mean, you look at it, you've got Hidasugu, who is a crazy ogre from Kamigawa. The ogres in Kamigawa served demons. They did rituals to appease demons. He has a gigantic saucer, a gigantic bowl of blood that he is pouring down into some sort of ritual. I like the idea, like the flavor behind it, I think when I look at it, is the 10 life that you've lost, because you start at 20, the 10 life that you lost, he's gathered up into this bowl, and he is pouring out all of your lifeblood to create this ritual that is going to drain the rest of the life out of you or immolate you. And he looks completely intense because he's half red, and you can't tell if that is supposed to represent him kind of being in the shadows or if he is literally half covered in blood. It's a pretty cool concept overall. Conceptually, this card is very cool. The artwork is very evocative. The flavor behind it is very evocative. But I don't know. I mean, I'm going to give it a pass because some people like build around it cards, but I feel like this is going to be a card that appeals to much fewer people overall. I could be wrong about that, though. Who knows? Maybe people will want to run it in a burn deck where you can just go pink, 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 get you to 10 and mess you up. We'll see. This is a time will tell. This is the least impressive of the cards that we've seen so far. Moving into the most important category, the green cards, because Daddy loves green. Let's take a look at what we're getting. Elvish Visionary is the first card. 1 green, 1 colorless for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. I really like creatures with enter the battlefield effects in green, and I like cards that replace themselves. So for this, overall, this is something I could see myself playing with no real hesitation. The artwork is amazing. I love it. You've got this elf with his lithe kind of graceful form. He's obviously very thin with this stylized robe. I love the extra like scarf or cloth that is basically strung over each of the arms. I love the position. This just has a very mystic feel to it, which makes perfect sense for an elf shaman. I like this card a lot. I mean, in terms of adding it to historic, it's just okay. There's a lot more exciting stuff we could get, but it doesn't feel terrible. The artwork is really nice and inviting with the greens and yellows, though. I love it. You've got the nature that's reaching up over above them, and you've got these other shamans that are kind of with their hoods pulled up and their faces in shadow. The flavor on it is just magnificent. Magnificent. Then, this is the card I'm most excited about, guys. This is the card I am most excited about. Fauna Shaman. All the way back from M11. 1 green, 1 colorless for a 2/2 elf shaman. Pay 1 green and tap it, discard a creature card. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. I am so excited about playing with this card. This card feels totally worth it. I mean, for 2 mana, you're getting a 2/2 bear. I mean, she's not a bear creature, but that's just what you call a 2/2 for 2, right? You're getting yourself a bear that has an incredibly strong ability. You can ditch your useless early mana creatures in exchange for big, beefier creatures, or specific utility creatures that you need, like a Thrashing Brontodon or something like that, to smash an artifact or enchantment. That is really fantastic. And the artwork is an absolute home run. She is such a striking character. And there are so many little details that add into this. You've got this brazier, like not a brazier, but like a floating bowl off to the right-hand side where magical energy is flowing up out of it, magical smoke, and you can see all these butterflies flying out of it. She's got another one of these bowls with a different sort of yellow magic flowing up out of it. She's got a crazy carved staff that's topped with a bird head, followed up with bat wings. You've got a bear's head underneath that with another little animal leaning off to the side. Under that, you've got tribal furs. You can see on her wrist, she's got little animal bones, little animal skulls. Flowing off the back of her shoulders, she's got big animal thorns. Her armor is made out of leather. She's got one shoulder pad that is another animal skull. She's got like this kind of tribal mask at her belt. You've got multiple tribal masks. One's adorned with a bird skull. She's got a big leather bag, all these little knickknacks. She's got a big glowing sphere, and she's got like a little frog familiar that's standing behind her with their back. She's got big flowing animal wings, like birds' wings coming off to the side too. On her head, she's got this crazy little sort of bandana off to one side, and it's a 2-headed bird helmet. Her necklace is 2 snakes facing each other. And there's more details in that I'm not even covering. And she's set in this woodland setting with the trees reaching up behind her. This card is amazing. The flavor is through the roof. Without even using flavor text, just the ability in the artwork transmit an amazing concept. And you can see kind of like her hair is also flowing up beside her in either way with this interesting symmetrical effect. There's a lot of amazing symmetry in the artwork too. The one bowl that's floating is offset by the staff. Her hair and her birds are symmetrical. The snake necklace is symmetrical. The bottom bowl and the frog are roughly symmetrical. It's not perfect symmetry, but it's very, very enjoyable symmetry. This card is amazing. I'm so glad that it's in Historic. I love it. I cannot wait to get these. After that, what? Yes, Imperious Perfect. Are you kidding me? Dude, another home run card. 1 green, 2 colorless for a 2/2 elf warrior. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1. Pay 1 green and tap, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. The power on this is intense because while the perfect's out, it's essentially making 2/2 tokens. And if you get more of these out, the tokens get beefier. Now, admittedly, the token looks kind of goofy. He's got a stupid look on his face. His ear looks like a goblin nose. He's got a staff. He's leaning way too far back. He's got the weird kind of tattoos that you'd expect a douche bro to have. You know, what's up, lady? You want to be treated bad tonight? The horns that are curling out of his head are fairly interesting. The nature setting behind him is nice. His shield looks pretty cool, and his leaf style like gauntlet that he's using, pretty cool. But his face looks so douchey. The positioning of his body looks so douchey. And in all honesty, I mean, we're basically looking at a treasure chest. Like, look at how low his pants go. He looks like the kind of guy who'd hang out with Oko. You know what I mean? Let's go treat some ladies badly. Or let's go treat some dudes badly. Whoever they're getting it on with, they're not treating them well. Now, as for the Imperious Perfects artwork, oh my god, it's gorgeous. Admittedly, when I look at her, I'm like, you need to eat a little, honey. You're a little too thin. You're a little too thin. But she's called an Imperious Perfect because she comes from the old Elvish Lorwyn society. An Elvish Lorwyn society is very bizarre for elves. They worship beauty, and they consider all other life forms to be ugly and worthy of destruction. Normally, elves will protect nature. The elves here only care about themselves. They don't care about anything else. If you are not an elf, you're an eye blight. If you're born an ugly elf, you're an eye blight and should be destroyed. And this artwork is incredible. The way that she's standing looks absolutely fantastic. Her armor is so ornate. I love the blooming flower that is at her throat. She's got these crazy sort of purple braids coming down. She's got a beautiful face. The pose that she's taking on with one hand up and the other arm with the blade raised above her looks fantastic. The nature that's been shaped behind her, it looks like almost like it was designed to be in a building. I could see this in a high-class restaurant. The artwork is so striking. It's absolutely beautiful. I really, really enjoyed this. This is a powerful card. This is a beautiful card. This is a flavorful card. I absolutely enjoy it. I feel like they could have put an elf in the background to represent her summoning these elves, but she is a high-ranking elvish noble, so they will come to her call, and she doesn't have the ugly, knobbly ears like this elf warrior token does. So she's beautiful, honestly. I'd feed her some cheeseburgers to get her a little thicker around the midsection there, because it's a little too thin for me, but absolutely gorgeous. Moving on, we've got Burning Tree Emissary. So this is a hybrid, 2 red, 2 green /, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to add a red and a green. It's pretty sweet to have creatures that pay for themselves, and I like hybrid creatures because I play mono green, and I can easily slot this into my mono green deck. So a 2/2 bear that pays for itself is very nice. She's a human shaman. I really love the contrast of her standing out in this city, right? Because this is set in Ravnica, and I like the fact that they chose to contrast her with more civilized folk who are dressed in less revealing manner, right? You've got the large, like old feeling building off to the side. You've got multiple people fully dressed off to the side, facing in the other direction. It's actually a really well done concept because she's from the Gruul, right? Or Gruul, however you want to say it. And they are wild. They reject society's ways. So here she is in her feathered hairdress, tribal markings on her face, a tribal necklace, tribal garb, revealing a bunch of her body, facing bravely towards us, like fearless, right? And then facing away in the other direction, we have the trappings of more civilized society moving away from her. It's so cool. Like, this is so well done. I love the reds and the greens of her outfit. It fits into the fact that the tribe is also red-green. I like the fact that she's got some sex appeal as well. That's appreciated by me. Overall, I like this card very much. I think it's reasonable on a power level. I think it's fantastic on a flavor level. It's a good include for historic. It gets my thumbs up. Moving on, we're going to talk about Captain Sisay. Now, this is a very interesting include, and I think this is more to give historic some brawl options. And this is 1 white, 1 green, and 2 colorless for a 2/2. Her ability is tap, search your library for a legendary card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this serves multiple purposes. You can use this as a commander for a brawl deck. You can also use this in a Dominaria style historic base deck, which is kind of funny. Historic is the term, is it not? For those old, it's enchantments, artifacts. So you can use her in a historic deck to grab historical, like, legend cards and things like that. So it's got that vibe as well. This is Captain Sisay. She flew the Weatherlight. That's actually where you can see her. You can see her right now on the Weatherlight. She is a very active captain. She's there in an action pose with her sword swung back, her braid flown back because she's literally like, she's leaping. She's caught here mid-leap, ready to swing her sword. This definitely makes her seem quite capable. I like this. This is nice artwork. It seems like an interesting include for Historic as well. So I give it a pass. Moving on, Ornithopter. Well, okay. Ornithopter's been a part of the game since like antiquities. We've had Ornithopter as part of the game for a very long time. 0 casting cost, 0/2 flyer. It's a 0 casting cost artifact creature. I guess if you want to play with Steel Overseer or something. I got to admit, I feel really underwhelmed looking at this. I don't like this artwork for the Ornithopter. It makes it look like a bigger airship that should actually be manned by people. It makes it look like it should be capable of maybe doing some damage possibly too. I do not like this Ornithopter artwork at all. I don't like the Ornithopter itself. I do like the perspective of the art where we can see we're way high up in the sky above the world. The only thing that you can see are mountain peaks that have poked up through the cloud top. So they have to be some pretty high spires. And you can see some birds flying below it. So I like that overall. This feels underwhelming. I don't know if this should have been brought into Historic. It may be something that I'm not thinking of, though. So if you can think of good uses for this card, by all means, let me know in the comments, because I'm curious. So this and Hidetsugu's second right so far are the most underwhelming. Then we've got Mind Stone. 2 colorless for an artifact that taps for a colorless, or pay 1 and tap it, sacrifice the Mind Stone, draw a card. So this is pretty serviceable. I like it. It comes out untapped. It's mana acceleration, which is nice. You can get rid of it later in the game when you have enough mana and no longer need it. And the artwork's amazing. You've got a crazy magical device that actually looks like a human brain. It's got multiple keys coming off of it of different shapes and varieties. And you can see the person who's holding it face is unlocked, like he has unlocked some knowledge. He's unlocked his mind. But he also has the power to unlock all these other people's minds. You can see that you got these people who are all blinded by locks. They have locks in their, like, keyholes on their throats. They have locks all over their face. It's a more abstract kind of artwork where you're not immediately understanding what's going on, but it's really, really flavorful. Like, this is just crazy. What exactly is going on here? How do you tap into the knowledge? Does it require shattering the brain on the top of it? Like, this is a very, very cool, flavorful piece of artwork. And seems like a really solid include for Historic. It's acceleration and card draw that anybody can use. Not too shabby. And the final card we're going to talk about is Darksteel Reactor. This is a build around me card. 4 casting cost, indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on Darksteel Reactor. When Darksteel Reactor has 20 or more charge counters on it, you win the game. I like alternate win conditions. I personally like Darksteel Reactor. I have an old school memory of it where one of my buddies basically played a card that let him remove all copies of it from the game. But I was angry at him because the only reason he knew I had Darksteel Reactors, we went to a tournament and we sat at the same table and I was just friendly chatting with him and I set my deck up. And he saw what my deck was while I was setting my deck up. And the first game we played, he played something that's very akin to Unmoored Ego. So he played that and he named Darksteel Reactor. And I said, you know what? If you want the win that bad, have it. And I got so mad at him. And he was just like, whoa. And I'm like, no. The only reason you knew to say that in the first game and like at the very beginning at this speed was because I'm friends with you and I sat near you to put my deck together. That's what I get for my friendship. I was livid. It would have been one thing if we had gone through to the second game or it had gone long enough that he had seen a Darksteel Reactor in the first game. That would have been a different scenario, by all means. But it was just like, man, you're a jerk. You scouted my deck and used that against me. I was so mad. He kept trying to come up and apologize to me. I mean, I forgave him later on. But for that day, it was, do not talk to me. Anyways, I like alternate wins. It's kind of weird because if you look at the energy at the bottom of the Darksteel Reactor, it kind of looks like a sack. Remember the tickle the sack? It kind of looks like a sack.
The artwork is just weird. The artwork, I've always looked at the artwork and go, what even is this? So from the artwork, it's never been a win for me. I do like the fact that it's set in kind of a desolate area and it's blasting energy into the ground, and it might actually be creating that crack that's running underneath it. I don't know. But the artwork's kind of dumb. This feels like a really weird include for Historic, but it's another build around it card. And since there's a bunch of proliferate stuff, I could see somebody making a feasible fun deck with it. So it's not a terrible include, but it's not amazing either. Overall, I have to say, I'm pretty pleased with the offerings they have. But let me switch over to the big view where I'm back using the other camera so that we can finish this video off right.
Woo! Man, that took a fair bit of time. If you made it all the way through, let me know in the comments that you are a trooper baller and you hung out with me for almost an hour talking about and looking at all this historic goodness. Let me know which cards you're excited about. Are there any that disappointed you? Do you feel differently about like the Ornithopter, the Second Ride, the Reactor? Do you think those are great includes? Because there are a number of different ways that people enjoy Magic the Gathering, so let me know yours. I genuinely enjoy reading all your comments, and I'm making an effort to respond to more of the comments. Anybody who was checking out yesterday's video would notice that. Now, if you enjoy what I'm doing, you like all the work that I'm putting in here, maybe it's time to sign up on my Patreon, you know? Hook me up a little. It's worth considering. Or you can join the channel membership, that's a great way. Buy some of my merchandise in the link, get yourself an Owner of Fine Luxury Cardboard Rectangle shirt, or together with a 6-color Magic shirt, all that goodness. Another way you can help me out is by actually going on over to my second channel. I'm trying to grow it. I'm making some funny videos over there. The last one we released is actually a game review. So if you like games, and I know you do because you're here, you should head on over there, have a laugh, and subscribe to that channel too. And this one too, if you're not already. So just remember, all the likes and comments and stuff, they help the channel out, so hook me up. All that being said, my thanks to my patrons and channel members. Thank you, good people. And remember, my friends, together we are the 6th color of magic.